December 19th, 1944. 06:23 hours. Woods outside Neuville, Belgium. Unteroffizier Klaus Wendel's gloved fingers struggled with the frozen pencil as he scrawled in his personal notebook, his breath forming clouds in the cramped interior of his Panther tank's turret. The Americans have a new hunter. We hear them but never see them. By the time we traverse our turret, they are gone. 3 of our Tigers destroyed yesterday. Through his commander's cupola, Wendell peered into the pre-dawn darkness of the Ardennes forest, where somewhere beyond the tree line, the 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion's M18 Hellcats were already moving into position. What he didn't know was that in exactly 17 minutes, his entire understanding of armoured warfare would be shattered by an American vehicle that violated every principle of tank combat the Wehrmacht had perfected over 5 years of war. The Panther's 75mm gun could penetrate any American tank at 2,000 metres. Its frontal armour could deflect most Allied shells. It represented the pinnacle of German engineering, heavy, powerful, methodical. Yet within 3 minutes of first contact, Wendell would witness the destruction of multiple German tanks by vehicles moving at speeds that German armour couldn't achieve on paved roads. The Battle of the Bulge was entering its 4th day, and across the frozen forests of Belgium and Luxembourg, German tank crews were discovering a terrifying reality. The Americans had built something that hunted differently than any armoured vehicle in history. Not stronger, not heavier, just faster than anything they could imagine surviving on a battlefield. The M18 Hellcat's genesis began in December 1941, just as America entered the war. While German tank doctrine evolved from the principle of overwhelming firepower and protection, leading to 45-ton Panthers and 69.8-ton King Tigers, American designers at General Motors took a radically different approach that would terrify German crews 3 years later. The Tank Destroyer Force, established under General Leslie McNair's directive on November 21, 1941, operated on a simple principle documented in Field Manual FM 18-5. Seek, strike, and destroy. The emphasis was on speed and firepower over armour. The M18, designated T-70 in development, would embody this philosophy to an extreme that German tank designers considered suicidal. Buick Motor Division in Flint, Michigan, not Grand Blanc as sometimes confused with the nearby Sherman tank plant, received the contract in January 1942. Chief Engineer Joseph Roberts faced specifications that seemed contradictory. Mount a 76mm high-velocity gun capable of destroying any German tank, maintain a low profile for concealment, and achieve speeds exceeding 50 miles per hour, all while keeping weight under 20 tons. The solution defied conventional tank design. The M18's armour measured merely 25.4mm at its thickest point on the turret front, 12.7mm on the hull front, barely enough to stop heavy machine gun fire. A German 88mm shell wouldn't just penetrate, it would pass completely through both sides. The design prioritised mobility above all else, creating what military historians would later describe as the fastest tracked armoured fighting vehicle of World War II. The first M18 Hellcats reached Europe in early 1944, initially seeing action in Italy with the 894th Tank Destroyer Battalion. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion became the first unit in the European theatre to receive M18s in May 1944, landing at Utah Beach on July 13th. But it was in the breakout from Normandy where German tank crews first encountered what would become their nightmare. On July 29, 1944, near Coutances, France, elements of German heavy tank battalions reported disturbing engagements with American tank destroyers that disappeared before the Germans could return fire. After-action reports documented enemy vehicles exhibiting speeds estimated at 80 km per hour over rough terrain, with engagement times from first shot to last sight approximately 180 seconds. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. A Panther tank's turret required 60 seconds to complete a full rotation. Its maximum speed was 34 miles per hour on roads, 15 miles per hour cross-country. The M18 Hellcat could accelerate from 0 to 30 miles per hour in 7 seconds, maintain 55 miles per hour on roads, with governor 60 miles per hour without, and sustain 26 miles per hour cross-country. In the 3 minutes it took a German crew to identify the threat, rotate their turret, acquire target and fire, the Hellcat could displace nearly 1.5 miles. The fear wasn't irrational. The M18's 76mm M1A2 gun, while unable to penetrate Panther frontal armour with standard M62A PCBC ammunition, could easily defeat the 40mm side armour at 1,500 metres. With M93 HVAP tungsten core rounds, though severely limited in supply with crews receiving only 1 to 2 rounds monthly, penetration reached 157mm at 500 yards. The gun's muzzle velocity of 2,600 feet per second meant the shell arrived before the sound of the shot. German doctrine emphasized methodical engagement, careful target acquisition, deliberate aiming, conservation of ammunition. Crews drilled extensively on fighting from static positions, using terrain for hull-down placement. The Panther and Tiger were designed for this doctrine. Heavily armoured, powerful guns, slow but steady advancement. The Hellcat shattered every aspect of this training. M18 crews were taught at Camp Hood, Texas, established specifically as the Tank Destroyer Tactical and Firing Center on 158,706 acres, to never remain stationary for more than 30 seconds after firing. The motto, "Speed is life," became standard doctrine. Where German doctrine emphasized the decisive shot, American tank destroyer doctrine preached, "Shoot and scoot." Between July 1943 and October 1944, Buick's Flint, Michigan plant produced exactly 2,507 M18 Hellcats, far fewer than the originally planned 8,986 vehicles. The production included 6 pilot models, an initial contract for 1,000 vehicles, and a final order of 1,507 units. Peak monthly production reached 267 units in November 1943. This production rate, while modest compared to Sherman tank output, still exceeded German Panther production. While Germany struggled to produce 90 Panthers monthly by late 1944, American factories had already completed the entire Hellcat production run. The disparity meant that while German crews knew each lost Panther or Tiger was essentially irreplaceable, American forces could rapidly replace any losses. The M18 featured a Wright R975 radial engine, originally designed for aircraft. Early production vehicles, serial numbers 1 to 1,350, used the naturally aspirated R975C1, producing 350 horsepower, while later models, Serial 1-351-2507, received the supercharged R975-C4, generating 400 horsepower beginning in March 1944. This power, combined with the vehicle's 17.7 to 20-ton weight, sources vary based on configuration, created an exceptional power-to-weight ratio of 20 to 22.5 horsepower per ton, compared to the Panther's 15 horsepower per ton. The Hellcat's hydromatic automatic transmission with torque converter allowed drivers to maintain maximum speed while manoeuvring, a critical advantage over German tanks requiring manual shifting and clutch operation. The ground pressure of just 10.5 psi, less than many wheeled vehicles, meant Hellcats could traverse mud and snow that immobilized 57-ton Tiger is, 15.2 psi ground pressure, and 69.8-ton Tiger IIs. The breakout from Normandy in August 1944 provided the first large-scale demonstration of Hellcat doctrine. During Operation Cobra, beginning July 28, 1944, the 603rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, which had received M18s in October 1943 and landed at Utah Beach July 21 to 22, participated in the sweep through Brittany. The 704th and 705th Battalions, also equipped with M18, joined the rapid advance. Traditional tank warfare would have dictated careful, covered approaches and sustained firefights. Instead, M18 crews executed what became known as rapid flanking attacks, using their superior speed to strike from unexpected directions before German turrets could traverse to meet the threat. The Battle of Aracourt, fought September 18th to 29th, 1944, not October as sometimes misreported, near the Nancy bridgehead across the Moselle River, demonstrated the M18's potential when properly employed. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, attached to the 4th Armoured Division's Combat Command A, faced elements of the German 113th Panzer Brigade in conditions that should have favoured the defenders. On September 19th, Lieutenant Edwin Leiper's platoon engaged German armour in heavy fog at extremely close range, visibility limited to 30 feet. In the first 5 minutes, his M18s destroyed 5 German tanks while losing just 1 vehicle. The engagement continued with 10 additional enemy tanks destroyed for the loss of 2 more M18. Captain Tom Evans earned the Distinguished Service Cross after personally manning a disabled M18's gun to destroy enemy panzers. The overall results at Aracourt were staggering. 39 German tanks destroyed for 4, M18 tanks destroyed, and 3 damaged, a 5.6 to 1 kill ratio that validated the tank destroyer concept. The Battle of the Bulge in December 1944 became the Hellcat's most legendary proving ground. The 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion, described by General A.D. Bruce as the finest tank destroyer battalion yet trained, rushed to defend Bastogne, providing critical armoured support for the 101st Airborne Division. On December 19th to 20th, 1944, near Neuville, M18S from both the 609th and 705th Tank Destroyer Battalions engaged elements of the 2nd Panzer Division. The 609th arrived first with Team Desaubry, with Lieutenant David K. Hagens's platoon of 4 M18 achieving remarkable results. 1 vehicle knocked out 7 German tanks, while another destroyed 5, losing only 1 M18 while destroying 14 enemy tanks total. The 705th, under Lieutenant Colonel Clifford D. Templeton, reinforced late on December 19th with approximately 12 M18. The combined force helped destroy at least 30 German tanks over 2 days, inflicting 600 to 1,000 German casualties while achieving a crucial 48-hour delay. The 705th would later receive a Presidential Unit Citation for actions at Bastogne from December 18th to 27th, 1944. On Christmas Day 1944 alone, the 705th destroyed 27 German tanks while losing 6 M18s engaging the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division, maintaining their exceptional kill ratios even in the most desperate fighting. Overall, during the siege of Bastogne, the 705th destroyed approximately 40 German tanks for 6 M18 losses, achieving a 6.7 to 1 kill ratio. The Hellcat's advantages increased in adverse conditions. While German heavy tanks struggled in mud and snow, the M18's lightweight and low ground pressure allowed maintained mobility. During the Bulge's opening phase, heavy fog grounded air support and limited visibility to under 100 metres. German Doctrine relied on long-range gunnery superiority, now negated. Hellcat crews, trained for close-range ambush at Camp Hood's Revolutionary Battle Conditioning course, thrived in these conditions. The M18's lightweight provided strategic mobility German heavy tanks couldn't match. While a King Tiger required Class 70 bridges, rare in Europe, the M18 could cross Class 24 bridges, basically any structure that could support a loaded truck. This advantage proved decisive during Rhine crossings. While German heavy tanks searched for intact bridges strong enough to support them, Hellcats crossed on temporary structures erected by combat engineers. While American factories built 2,507 M18 Hellcats between July 1943 and October 1944, Germany struggled throughout the war to produce heavy tanks. Total Panther production reached approximately 6,000 vehicles, while only 492 King Tigers and 1,347 Tiger IS were ever built. The mathematics of industrial capacity were inescapable. For every Panther produced, America built 8 tank destroyers and tanks total. German tank crews faced not just superior tactics, but overwhelming numbers. American production included 49,234 M4 Shermans, 2,507 M18 Hellcats, 2,324 M10 tank destroyers, 2,073 M36 tank destroyers, plus 88,410 other armoured vehicles. German tank crew training in 1944 emphasised methodical engagement, careful target acquisition, deliberate aiming, conservation of ammunition. By late 1944, veteran German tank crews were increasingly rare. Replacements received minimal training, sometimes just 2 weeks, before facing combat. American Hellcat crews, conversely, received extensive training at Camp Hood, later Fort Hood, Texas. The Tank Destroyer Schools program included 17 weeks of intensive training, with emphasis on speed, mobility, and initiative. The facility, commanded initially by Lieutenant Colonel, later Brigadier General, Andrew D. Bruce, could train 100,000 soldiers simultaneously with 28 battalions and 8 groups in various stages of preparation. Crews practiced high-speed firing, rapid displacement, and coordinated attacks until these became instinctive. The Revolutionary Battle Conditioning Course, originally called the Tank Hunting Course, became the first U.S. Army training to employ live fire overhead, with trainees spending a full week in simulated combat conditions. By late 1944, American tank destroyer doctrine had evolved from initial concepts to proven combat techniques. M18-5, published in June 1942, stated, "There is but one battle objective of tank destroyer units, the destruction of hostile tanks." General Bruce later clarified that seek meant vigorous reconnaissance, strike meant destruction through gunfire rather than charging, and destroy meant elimination through superior tactics. Combat experience modified these concepts. North African battles taught that pure offensive charges were suicidal. Instead, aggressive spirit combined with stealth and deception became the cornerstone of successful tank destroyer employment. M18 crews developed wolf-pack tactics, 3 or 4 Hellcats operating in coordinated but independent attacks, communicating by radio to create overlapping fields of fire while maintaining constant movement. By war's end, M18 Hellcat units had achieved remarkable combat statistics. The Army Historical Foundation documents 526 total enemy armoured vehicle kills, 498 in Europe, 17 in Italy, and 11 in the Pacific. With approximately 216 M18s lost to enemy fire in the European theatre, this produced an overall kill-to-loss ratio of 2.4 to 1, 2.3 to 1 in Europe specifically, the highest of any US tank or tank destroyer in World War II. Individual unit achievements often exceeded these averages. The 603rd Tank Destroyer Battalion destroyed upwards of 90 enemy armoured fighting vehicles. The 704th achieved similar numbers, with their Aracourt engagement alone accounting for 39 kills. The 705th's performance at Bastogne, 40 tanks destroyed for 6 lost, demonstrated sustained excellence. The 601st Tank Destroyer Battalion achieved the highest documented ratio at nearly 23 to 1. Loss analysis revealed that 40 to 50% of M18 casualties resulted from enemy tanks and anti-tank guns exploiting the vehicle's minimal armour, while 25 to 35% stemmed from mechanical breakdowns. Remaining losses came from infantry anti-tank weapons, artillery and mines. The fundamental difference between German and American armoured vehicle design philosophy becomes clear when comparing specifications. The Panther weighed exactly 44.8 to 45 tons with 80mm frontal armour sloped at 55 degrees, effective approximately 140mm. The Tiger Y weighed 57 tons with 100mm vertical frontal armour. The King Tiger reached 69.8 tons with 150mm sloped frontal armour and 180mm turret armour. Against this, the M18 Hellcat weighed just 17.7 to 20 tons, with armour ranging from 12.7mm on the hull to 25.4mm on the turret front, thinner than some German armoured cars. Yet this apparent vulnerability enabled the speed that became its primary defence. At 500 metres, a Hellcat moving perpendicular at 40 miles per hour would cross a Tiger's gun arc in 4.5 seconds, faster than the gunner could track with manual traverse after hydraulic failure, a common combat occurrence. Beyond speed, the M18 demonstrated superior mechanical reliability compared to German heavy tanks. The Wright R975 radial engine, derived from proven aircraft designs, started reliably even in sub-zero conditions. German tank crews, using diesel engines requiring careful warm-up procedures, couldn't understand how Hellcats could start instantly and accelerate immediately. The Panther's sophisticated transmission, while technically advanced, proved fragile under combat conditions. Final drive failures plagued the design throughout its service life. The Tiger II's complexity meant that more were lost to mechanical failure than enemy action. Meanwhile, the M18's simplified design, using proven automotive components wherever possible, ensured consistent operational readiness. American logistical superiority amplified the M18's effectiveness. While German tanks often sat idle for lack of fuel, spare parts, or ammunition, Hellcat units maintained high operational rates through efficient supply chains. The famous Red Ball Express and similar logistics operations ensured consistent fuel deliveries, while standardized parts meant easy field maintenance. German forces by late 1944 faced chronic fuel shortages. Operation Watch on the Rhine, the German Ardennes offensive, partially aimed to capture Allied fuel dumps because German supplies couldn't sustain prolonged operations. This fuel situation meant German tanks often fought defensively from static positions, exactly where the mobile Hellcat held maximum advantage. Every M18 carried both radio and intercom systems that worked reliably. SCR 508 or SCR 528 radio sets providing consistent communication. German tanks, especially by late 1944, often operated with degraded or non-functional communications, relying on signal flags or pre-battle planning. This seemingly minor detail had major tactical implications. Hellcat platoons coordinated attacks in real time, adjusting to German responses instantly. When 4 Hellcats attacked from different directions, they operated as a single organism through radio coordination. German tanks, often fighting in communication isolation, couldn't match this flexibility. Before the Hellcat's legendary performance in northwest Europe, the Italian campaign provided German forces with their first warnings. In May 1944, during the breakout from Anzio, the 894th Tank Destroyer Battalion's Hellcats faced elements of the Hermann Göring Panzer Division. The terrain, rolling hills with vineyards and stone walls, should have neutralized the M18's speed advantage. Instead, it amplified their psychological impact. The Hellcats used their ability to accelerate up 30-degree slopes at speeds German tanks couldn't achieve on flat ground, creating an illusion of omnipresence by appearing at multiple points along ridgelines in rapid succession. This early demonstration of Hellcat capabilities went largely unheeded by German High Command, who remained focused on the Eastern Front, where most German armour was committed. Winter 1944–45 proved that the Hellcat's advantages actually increased in adverse conditions. The M18's wide tracks and light weight, producing just 10.5 psi ground pressure, allowed movement through snow that trapped heavier vehicles. German Tigers and Panthers, already struggling with mechanical reliability, found their mobility further reduced by winter conditions. During the Battle of the Bulge, Hellcat crews exploited these conditions expertly. They used their speed to race through areas where German heavy tanks bogged down, appearing behind German lines where heavy armour was thought impossible. This mobility in poor conditions contributed significantly to the successful defence of Bastogne. German forces attempted various counter-tactics against the Hellcat threat. Updated tactical manuals recommended immediate smoke deployment when M18s were identified, essentially blinding themselves in hopes the threat would pass. Other desperate measures included welding additional track links to side armour, ineffective against 76mm rounds, and creating deliberate ambushes with hidden anti-tank guns. Nothing worked consistently. The Hellcat's combination of speed, firepower, and tactical flexibility proved insurmountable with available German resources. The vehicle's very presence altered German behaviour. Commanders became reluctant to commit armour without extensive reconnaissance, sacrificing initiative and momentum. In March 1945, near Remagen, M18s from the 656th Tank Destroyer Battalion crossed the captured Ludendorff Bridge, while it was too damaged for heavier vehicles. They established a screen that destroyed 11 German tanks attempting to approach the bridge, including 2 King Tigers that couldn't maneuver quickly enough in the confined terrain. This action demonstrated the strategic value of the M18's lightweight. While German heavy tanks required specific routes and specially reinforced bridges, Hellcats could use any crossing that supported truck traffic, appearing in impossible locations behind German lines. April 1945 saw the Ruhr Pocket become a massive trap for German Army Group B. The 893rd Tank Destroyer Battalion's Hellcats conducted what historians consider exemplary tank destroyer operations, racing through collapsing German lines at speeds approaching 60 miles per hour on cleared autobahns, appearing deep in German rear areas before commanders knew the front had been penetrated. These final operations demonstrated the M18's concept brought to full maturity: speed as weapon, mobility as armour, surprise as primary tactic. German defensive positions designed to stop deliberate attacks by heavy tanks proved useless against vehicles that simply raced around them at highway speeds. Post-war analysis by US Army historians validated the M18 concept despite its limitations. The 76mm gun's inability to penetrate Panther or Tiger frontal armour with standard ammunition forced reliance on flanking attacks, missions where the vehicle's speed became essential. With standard M62 APCBC rounds achieving only 93mm penetration at 500 yards, and scarce HVAP rounds, crews had to close to suicidal ranges for frontal engagements against German heavy tanks. Yet the combat record speaks definitively. 526 confirmed kills against 216 combat losses produced the highest kill-to-loss ratio of any American armoured vehicle in World War II. This success came not from superior firepower or protection, but from revolutionary employment of speed and mobility, combined with superior crew training. The M18 Hellcat represented more than a vehicle. It embodied a completely different conception of armoured warfare. While Germany perfected the tank as breakthrough weapon and mobile fortress, America created something new: the tank destroyer as pure hunter. The tank destroyer force's motto, "Seek, strike and destroy," proved prophetic. By war's end, American tank destroyer battalions claimed over 11,000 enemy vehicles destroyed in total, with Hellcat units achieving the highest kill ratios. The doctrine emphasized that tank destroyers were not tanks and shouldn't fight like tanks. They were hunters that struck from ambush and vanished. Beyond tactical success, the Hellcat achieved strategic effects. German armoured reserves, instead of concentrating for offensive operations, were increasingly held back to guard against tank destroyer raids. The mere presence of Hellcat units in a sector could freeze German armoured movement for hours, while commanders sought confirmation of their locations. During the Ardennes offensive, intercepted German communications revealed commanders requesting verification that no Hellcats were present before committing reserves. Hours were lost to reconnaissance, momentum sacrificed to caution. The offensive that was supposed to split Allied forces was partially paralysed by fear of vehicles weighing less than half a Panther. The 2,507 Hellcats built represented American industrial philosophy, not perfection, but practical efficiency. While Germany built 6,000 Panthers over 3 years, struggling with quality control and component shortages, Buick produced all M18 in just 15 months, using proven components and simplified construction. German engineers, when examining captured M18s, noted the apparent crudity: functional welds rather than perfect joints, armor plate showing tool marks, interior ergonomics seemingly accidental. Yet this crude vehicle consistently destroyed German tanks built with watchmaker precision. The difference lay in design philosophy. Germany built engineering monuments while America built practical tools. Behind the statistics lay human tragedy on both sides. Young German tankers, many still teenagers by 1945, faced an enemy that negated everything they'd been taught. Their carefully maintained Panthers and Tigers, representing the peak of German engineering, burned just as readily when struck by Hellcat rounds fired from ambush. American crews, while suffering far fewer losses, carried their own burdens. The speed that saved them also meant striking without warning, often giving German crews no chance to surrender or escape. The minimal armour meant that when M18s were hit, catastrophic losses often resulted, though the open-topped turret design actually improved crew survival rates to over 80% compared to just 35% for German heavy tank crews. The M18 Hellcat's influence extended beyond World War II. Post-war armies studied its employment, recognizing that mobility could trump protection in certain circumstances. Modern military doctrine's emphasis on shoot and scoot, rapid displacement and mobility as survival technique all trace roots to M18 employment in 1944 to 45. Today at Fort Moore, formerly Fort Benning, a restored M18 Hellcat stands at the Armour School entrance. Its plaque commemorates it as the fastest armoured fighting vehicle of World War II, and proof that American ingenuity and mass production could defeat sophisticated enemy tanks through speed and tactical innovation. The final accounting of the Hellcat's impact: production total manufactured 2,507. Production period July 1943 to October 1944, 15 months. Peak production 267 units, November 1943. Unit cost $57,500, $1943. Production location Buick Division, Flint, Michigan. Performance maximum speed 55 miles per hour, governed 60 miles per hour, ungoverned. Acceleration 0 to 30 miles per hour, 7 seconds. Range 100 to 105 miles. Power or weight ratio 20 to 22.5 horsepower per ton. Ground pressure 10.5 psi. Combat record: enemy vehicles destroyed 526 confirmed. M18s lost to enemy fire 216. Overall kill ratio 2.4 to 1. European theatre ratio 2.3 to 1. Comparative German tank specifications: Panther 44.8 to 45 tons, 15 horsepower per ton, 34 miles per hour maximum. Tiger I 57 tons, 100 mm frontal armour, 1,347 produced. Tiger II 69.8 tons, 150 mm frontal armour, 492 produced. The supreme irony of the Hellcat story is that German doctrine created the conditions for its success. By building increasingly heavy tanks, Panthers, Tigers, King Tigers, Germany created slow, road-bound targets perfect for Hellcat tactics. Had Germany continued developing lighter, mobile tanks, the Hellcat's advantages would have been minimized. Every ton added to German tanks made them more vulnerable to American tank destroyers. The pursuit of invulnerable supertanks created vehicles that couldn't respond to high-speed warfare. In building fortresses, Germany became vulnerable to enemies that fought like cavalry, racing cars with guns that struck and vanished before retaliation was possible. The M18 Hellcat proved that victory doesn't require the best equipment, it requires the right equipment properly employed. German crews in their magnificent Panthers and Tigers were defeated by American crews in vehicles that seemed impossibly vulnerable. It remains one of history's great examples of doctrine defeating technology. Military historian Stephen J. Zaloga characterized the M18 as poorly balanced, while noting its success was attributable to the training and dedication of its crews, not to its ill-conceived design. Yet this assessment misses a crucial point. The poor balance of extreme speed over armour protection was precisely what enabled the revolutionary tactics that produced the highest kill-to-loss ratio of any American armoured vehicle in World War II. For German tank crews in 1944–45, 3 minutes was all they had. 3 minutes from the first sound of high-revving engines to the impact of 76mm rounds. 3 minutes to identify the threat, traverse their turret, acquire target and fire, while the Hellcat was already racing to its next position at 55 miles per hour. 3 minutes that usually ended with their tank burning and the Hellcat vanishing into the distance, seeking its next victim. The Hellcat proved that in modern warfare, speed doesn't just kill, it renders strength irrelevant. The German crews who survived those 3 minutes learned a lesson that would reshape armoured warfare doctrine. Sometimes the best armour is not being where the enemy can shoot you. Sometimes the most powerful gun is the one that fires from where the enemy doesn't expect. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from building the strongest tank, but from building the right tank for the war you're actually fighting. In those 3 minutes lay the difference between old thinking and new, between fighting the last war and fighting the current one, between perfection and pragmatism. The M18 Hellcat, under-armoured, outgunned by German tanks, dismissed by some as poorly designed, achieved what German supertanks could not: battlefield dominance through speed, training and revolutionary employment. For German tank crews facing M18 Hellcats, 3 minutes was a lifetime. For most, it was all the lifetime they had left.